stay grounded. Oh, sorry. So this exercise will help us stay calm, help us feel grounded. And I will first explain what we're going to do, and then I'm going to lead you through it. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to take 4 breaths. So we're going to breathe in slowly and fill up our lungs with air as much as we can. And then we will hold our breaths for as long as we can. That can be 10 seconds or 15 seconds, whatever that is for you. And then we're going to exhale and release. We will do 4 sets of these. And if you're wondering why, I'll provide you with a short explanation of why this works. So if you engage in this mindful breathing exercise, you will be able to balance the carbon dioxide in your blood. And by doing so, this will immediately give you a nice feeling of relaxation. Okay, so now that I said that, if you are ready, I would lead you through the first 2. And then we're going to do the last 2 independently or on our own. Ready? Okay, here we go. Take a breath and fill up your lungs. You may begin. Now hold your breath for as long as you can. When you're ready, release. Okay, here we go again. If you are ready, breathe in and fill up your lungs. Now hold your breath for as long as you can. And release. Now when you're ready, I'll give you about a minute so that you can do 2 more of these. And you may begin when you're ready. And let's come back together. And think for a moment how that felt in your body. And as you move throughout the activities of tonight, I hope that when you feel too excited that it gets overwhelming, you will remember how to ground yourself in just a couple of minutes. Thank you so much for your attention and looking forward to the rest of this meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morales. I feel better. I hope everybody else does. We will drop this in the chat, but if that was nice for you, there are many, many options for professional development programming that we offer through AFT, through the Bridges Institute, which Dr. Morales works with, to do that kind of self-care and taking care of your needs and your own well-being. One of those things is an upcoming webinar through AFT Share My Lesson that is 4 credit. So if you are looking for CPE credits, that is an option. We just dropped that link in the chat, Sierra did, so please sign up for it. Take a little bit of time for yourself. That is a monthly wellness series that you can do just to reserve some time for yourself in these very stressful times. So with that said, I am going to kick it back to Jamie and Anthony, our political team, to walk you through the rest of tonight.
All right, real quick, we're gonna have some election night bingo today. So if you'll look in the chat, Sierra's going to drop a link to a Google Doc where you can claim your bingo card. And all you need to do is copy and paste your bingo card link into your browser. And this is what your bingo card kind of looks like, but all those squares are obviously different and shuffled around. But if you get a bingo by watching, the results come in, maybe you're watching the national results on the TV, whatever, just let us know that you get a bingo. You can put it in the chat, you can come off mute, but yeah, there should be a link in the chat coming soon. And let me know if you have any questions. I can show you what it looks like as well, if that would help. 1 second. All right, so if you click on that link, this is what our Google Doc looks like. You just type your name here. And then if you click on your link, you'll have your bingo card. And you can mark them off with just by clicking on them. So good luck playing bingo. The winners will get prizes. And yeah, have fun. Let us know if you see any of these on the coverage on the TV. Back to you, Anthony.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. We're very happy to be with all of you tonight. Thank you for taking a couple minutes with us. Hopefully our call won't last too long tonight because we know all of you need to spend some time relaxing after a busy day at work today. And also we hope that you're either in line voting or have already voted multiple times. So I'm just kidding about the multiple times thing. But we appreciate all of you being here tonight with us. So we've got a pop quiz question for everyone. We'd love for you to say this in the chat or show us your I voted sticker. But the pop quiz is, did you vote in this election? Are we 38 for 38 in terms of votes cast? Write it in the chat that you voted. We appreciate you doing your civic duty and standing up for public education. Thank you to all the people who voted early, mentioning that in the chat. Thank you. We appreciate all of you doing that. So, and then you get extra credit and bonus points if you voted early. And I know some folks voted early. I voted last Friday. It's extremely easy to early vote in Texas. We usually get 2 weeks of early voting. So the library down the street from my house, I live in House District 91 in North Fort Worth, which is currently held by Stephanie Click, who is an awful state representative of mine. I'm not a big fan of her. And there's a line around the block to go vote right now in this precinct. So turnout is obviously up in some of the Republican precincts. So we are doing this Educating Texas series because we want folks to take their civic education seriously. And we know that living in a thriving democracy is the only way that we can secure the profession that we live in, to secure our public schools, to do the work that we need to do for our kids and parents and our communities. And so we hope that all of you are excited about participating in these meetings with us. I think this is the probably 4th or 5th one that we've done, which is really exciting. We have a bunch more coming up over the next 2 months because there will be runoffs. We're going to talk about that momentarily too, that the election season is not over today. This is merely round 1 in a 3-round fight for control of the state of Texas and American democracy playing out this year in 2024. So we appreciate all of you being here. Special shout out to all the civics and social studies teachers that are with us tonight, Daniel and many others out there. So thank y'all. Next slide. Jamie, are you doing the trivia question?
Yep. So
Awesome.
Friends, here's our first trivia question of the night. The first person to answer this correctly in the chat gets a prize. Ready, set, go.
Okay, who's going to be first? I'm watching the chat now. Okay, Kathy says B.
Is that right, Anthony?
What
No,
kind
it is
of
not.
primaries does Texas
B is
have?
not correct. Let's try
B is
again.
not correct. What's the right answer?
Our primaries are not closed. That's
Ooh,
Corazon Flores, I believe, was the first person who got the correct answer, which is A, open primaries. And to stay on this for a second, what this means is that in many states, you have to be registered with a specific political party ahead of time in order to participate in that political party's primary, which is not the case in Texas. You can walk into any precinct or polling location and ask for a ballot on the Democratic side or the Republican side, and you can vote in either one. And it doesn't dictate how you have to vote in November either. So a lot of folks don't know that, but that's key information. Anyone can vote in any primary. You are not registered or dedicated to a political party here in Texas. So there are lots of states that have this. I have a feeling this will be a fervent debate in the 2025 legislative session. So we will look forward to seeing that. So congratulations to Corazon. She's our first winner. Corazon, make sure to drop your email in the chat so we can make sure to follow up with you about giving you your prize, which I believe is a gift card. And so that's very exciting. And congratulations. Okay, next slide, please. So I want to talk folks through a little bit. This is kind of the meat of our presentation tonight, because this is election night is usually a fun night. We don't have any returns to look at yet. It's only 6:19, so polls are still open. And so we still have time to, there are obviously still people voting right now. And we have time to look at how we can view the results tonight and why voting in these primaries matters, because especially in Texas, primary voting matters in many ways, in some ways more than some of the voting that happens in November, because of the way that the state has been gerrymandered. And if that's a term that you've never heard before, what gerrymandering means is that politicians and elected officials essentially write and dictate their district lines in House districts and congressional districts. And they essentially get to choose their voters. They get to choose the people that are going to be the ones voting for them based on those previous activity that those people have had in political elections. And so what that does is it puts Republicans in one area and it puts Democrats in one area, and it makes most elections in Texas very uncompetitive. And so this is an important thing for folks to understand. And we want to look at 2022 real quick. And we've talked about 2022 in the past, but HD 142 is a great example of this. It's a district in Houston currently held by State Representative Harold Dutton, who previously was the chair of the Public Education Committee. And in 2022, there were about 194,000 voters in his district. Each of those fish represents 1,000 or so voters. Okay, so 194,000, people, 194,000 people, not voters in his district. Next slide. And I cribbed all this from the Texas Tribune too, so don't think that I invented all this. Texas Tribune did a great expose on this with very fancy graphics, so make sure to check out the Texas Tribune's website where you can find all this information. But a couple more pieces as we're kind of dissecting this election in 2022, and hopefully this will help all of you dissect elections that are going to happen right now and tonight. So the under 18 population in House District 142 was 55,000. Okay, the 18 or older population who wasn't registered to vote was 46,000. The people that were registered to vote but actually didn't participate in the election in March of 2022 were 82,000 people. And so the colored fish, the red and the blue fish, were the only people who actually showed up to the primary election and voted. Okay. This is very key to understand, is that in many ways, elections and our government are decided by the people who show up. And in these elections, very few people actually show up. And so that state representative, Harold Dutton, is representing 194,000 people. He's representing about 150,000 registered voters, and only 8,377 voted in his Democratic primary in 2022. Okay, only those blue fish right there, those handful of blue fish, were the only ones who voted, and they're the ones who chose the representative. Next slide. So this is kind of indicative of a greater problem in Texas and why our democracy is in some ways a little bit broken. Texas is worse off than some other states that have more competitive elections than we do. But you can see to the far right, that's the number of competitive elections that were actually possible for one party or another to win in 2022. It's a really small amount of primaries that are actually able, districts that are folks are able to win or to quote unquote flip. Because you hear a lot about that well, Democrats want to flip the House, or Republicans want to maintain control of the House, or any of these number of things. What happens in Texas is that that's almost impossible because they've specifically set up the structure of our elections in order to make it that way. And so in these primary elections, the ones that we're in right now, they're the only ones that are competitive. In some ways, they're the ones that matter the most. And so that's why it's really important to participate and why we harp on it so much and constantly. I'm sure everybody on this call has gotten 8,000 text messages from us and phone calls and emails and all sorts of other things and social media posts. It's because we can't say it enough that these elections are important and we need folks to show up. So next slide. And so what happened in 2022 is that of those 8,377 people that voted in that election in the Democratic primary, Harold Dutton got 219 more votes than our Aldean AFT president, Candace Houston, who ran against him. Okay. So instead of having a union member and an educator and a union president in the legislature, we got Dutton, who voted for lots of things that we don't like. And that our union and our members and our people that live in Houston are not a fan of. And so this is the nature of democracy in Texas, is that these primaries are in many ways the only competitive show in town, and yet so few people participate. So he got about 4,500 or so votes in that election, and he won. Candace got about 4,300 or so. And that's where we're at. And so many elections are the same way. You'll see so many elections tonight that are decided by a very small amount of votes and a very small amount of people, because at last count on Friday, I think the overall turnout was hovering around 10%. So you're talking about 10% of the people, 1 in 10, are the ones making all the decisions for the rest of us. And for the rest of the folks who don't vote. So this is important. It's a great way to look at this information. We hope that you'll share this around with other folks. I think folks dropped the Texas Tribune article. Please share it, put it on your social media, point folks to this, because like I mentioned, we're going to get another shot at this. We have runoffs in 2 months, and we're going to get another shot at voting and participating here in Texas. So we have another chance. Next slide. Okay, trivia question number 2.
All right, put your answers in the chat. First person who is correct wins.
Okay, let's see who's going to do it. Who's going to get there first?
Anthony, do you know the right answer?
I'm going to read the question first. Well, per student, I had the chat up and didn't read the question. Well, per student funding, teacher raises remain flat. Past decade TA's budgets increased by what percentage? I don't know it off the top of my head.
30?
Lori?
Let's see.
I know the answer.
Kathy says C, 7%. We have Yolanda in with C, 7%. Any other?
I think everybody else is waiting so that we'll eliminate answers.
Okay, Sarah. Yeah. Okay, we got a couple of answers in there. So why don't we go ahead and say
Allison, she's the first one.
Okay, Allison Chapin has won this one and has won a gift card. Allison, put your email in the chat. It's D, 39%. Wow. Patty, do you want to say a word about that since you're the TEA expert?
Yes. Yeah, the TEA is run by an appointed guy. This is Mike Morath, who you've heard about before in our Lovers of Power Educating Texas series. So Mike Morath comes from the business world. He loves consultants. So he thinks that a consultant, the higher paid, the least experience, the better he likes them. So that's his kind of thing. He loves standardized testing. So there's a lot of staff paying attention to that kind of a thing. He loves to undermine our certification standards. A lot of staff devoted to that. So while the TEA is increasing in size, it's not for improving our public schools. The guy who's in charge right now is all about privatization. He would love to rapidly expand charter schools. In fact, he's the only person who does approve expansion amendments for charter schools. So yeah, this is a big number, and that those millions and millions that are poured into this agency should be going into your pockets instead.
Yeah, somebody will have to correct me, but I believe over the same time period, over the last decade or so, I believe teachers have taken around a 10% wage cut. So you're talking about educators, the actual in the classroom folks who actually do the work, taking a 10% pay cut over the course of this time versus TEA, the folks dropping all the mandates and coming up with all the cockamamie rules that all of you guys have to follow have gotten a 39% increase. So, next slide. That's depressing. No, hey, no. Okay. We're going to talk about how to watch results tonight because we don't have any results to report yet because it's only 6:30, so polls haven't closed yet. And they're open in El Paso for another hour after this because they're in a different time zone. So we won't see full statewide results until at least after 8 o'clock our time. But I want to point all of you to a couple of different places to find good results because not only do we have a Texas election happening tonight, we have a national election too. So today is many people call it Super Tuesday because we have so many different primaries happening around the country. There are primaries happening in many different states. The presidential primary, which is mostly decided, but then you have other ones too, congressional primaries, Senate primaries, and primaries in state legislatures all around the country that are happening today. And so you have a national election. Lots of folks watch CNN, they watch MSNBC, they watch Fox, they go to those places to look for information on the national elections. I like to look at Politico. Politico has good information on their website for national results that you can check out. And then for Texas, there are two really good sources that folks will look at to be updated as the night goes on. The Texas Secretary of State has a results page in addition to the Texas Tribune. Both are very solid resources to look at in terms of finding out results. So I note at the bottom there that sometimes results come in slowly. That does not mean the election is being stolen. A lot of people think that for some reason or another, that they have it in their heads. Oh, if the election results are coming in slowly, that means there's something nefarious happened. That is untrue. It does take time to properly evaluate and count votes as they come in Texas. Right after 7 p.m., you will likely see some results come in, which are usually the early voting results. The early voting and absentee ballot results can be counted pretty much right away. So you'll be able to see those tabulated and starting to populate on the Secretary of State's and the Texas Tribune website just after 7 o'clock. And then you'll see the western part of the state after 8 o'clock as well. So these are some great ways to watch results. People usually like to have multiple tabs open on their computer and kind of flipping between sources to see votes being tabulated. This is a good way to look at the results tonight. Houston often comes very slow for some reason or another. This is a normal thing in Texas. We don't know why Houston results take the time that they do, but they do. They seem to take forever. And so we often can be looking for Houston and Harris County related results all the way deep into the night and sometimes even into the next day here in Texas. So this is a normal thing. It happens pretty much every election cycle that it takes forever for Harris County to be counted. So next slide. And I wanted to show you a little bit about the Secretary of State's website. If folks, if that link's being dropped in the chat, feel free to take a look as you're going, because you can kind of build a favorites for yourself of races that you're really interested in. You can pick the Democratic primary or the Republican primary, and star where you see in the center of the slide where it says president and there's a little star right there. You can touch that star, and then you can essentially create a favorites list for yourself that you can check throughout the night in races that you're interested in and that you want to take a close look at. So it'll be divided into federal races, statewide offices, and district offices, which is your House districts. which is really what's at play here in Texas tonight and what a lot of people are looking at. We're looking at Texas House results in the Republican primaries. We're looking at Texas House results in the Democratic primaries as well, to see how many of our endorsed candidates on the Democratic side, because we did not endorse any Republican candidates this year for a variety of good reasons, in terms of the votes that they took during the legislative session. And so on the Democratic side, we have a lot of races that we're interested in what the results are. And so we're going to pay close attention to those and take a look. So you can use the Secretary of State's website to build yourself a favorites list and check back throughout the night and see how things are going. Next slide. I wanted to also show how those results are going to start showing up in front of you. You're going to see candidates' names show up, the party that they're in. If you're looking at a specific party primary, you're going to see the early votes cast and then the total amount of votes cast. And the total votes are going to be the votes that show up both in are going to be essentially the election day votes. That's the total votes that you're going to see. There's kind of a difference between early votes and total votes. Early votes is going to be everything from absentee and the in-person early voting that happens during the early voting period. And then the total votes are going to be everybody who voted on election day. So and that can range from a very small amount of people to it can be the entire election that's swung on election day. We've seen many elections in Texas hinge on who turns out voters on election day, because we see so many people show up on that day and change the color of an election. Even if one candidate wins the early vote, you can have enough votes taken during election day to overcome that difference, and those candidates can win. So be patient. The results do come slowly sometimes. This is normal. Tell your friends and family, especially your conservative brothers and sisters, that this doesn't mean anything nefarious is happening, and that the votes take some time to count. So next slide. I mentioned a second ago, taking a look at flipping between different websites, because this is the Texas Tribune's website, a screenshot of it in front of you. Texas Tribune has very helpful information. Their information looks a little nicer than the Secretary of State's information. So you can kind of go county by county. You can look at precincts. You can look at House districts. You can look at all sorts of interesting things that will help you evaluate how the election is going for candidates that you care about. And you can even, as time goes on, get some demographic data if there are exit polls that are being taken. In some areas, you can get a little bit of extra information. And so this is very important. So pro tip is switching between election results websites. You can get more information. You can also look at your local newspapers as well. Austin American-Statesman is going to have a results page. The Houston Chronicle will have a results page. The Dallas Morning News will have a results page. You can go to all those places and find out more granular information about your county related offices that you may care about in your local areas too. So if you've never kind of watched election results or paid attention to them, it's really fun. You know, it's often a fun exercise to see results as they come in and either be horrified or surprised or happy by whatever the results are. So, but like Claudia said, let's all try to breathe and stay calm throughout the night. So next slide. Go ahead, Jamie.
Speaking of breathe and stay calm, hurry up, put your answer in the chat right now. Trivia question number 3.
How many of the 15 seats on the State Board of Educator Certification are appointed by the governor?
Okay, Kathy says 15. Lori, is she correct?
Yeah, she is.
All right, Miss Kathy.
That's quick. She snatched it.
Good job, Kathy. 15.
Good job, Kathy. Yeah, so SBEC is a topic that we delved deep into and one of our previous Zoom sessions. We hope you'll go back and take a look at it if you want to learn more about SBEC, and definitely check out our previous sessions.
I love to highlight our top texters of this election season. This is just over the last 3 text banks that we held on Zoom. And we have our reigning champ, Miss Pamela Davis Duck, sent another almost 20,000 texts. She sent 20,000 during the Cole election. She sent 20,000 during the primaries. She's probably going to send 20,000 more during the runoffs. Congratulations, Pamela. And then we also have Carol. Carol is a brand new texter with us. I don't know if she's on this call. Hopefully she is, but incredible job, Carol. We're so glad that we got you onto Impacted with us. And then, of course, Alma, Christy, and Sean, thank you so much for sending all of these texts. We really appreciate it. All of you are going to get some gift cards sent your way, so keep an eye in your email inbox. And thank you so much for helping us get out the vote.
Awesome. We appreciate all of our texters and all of our volunteers that helped us this election season. So thank you very much to all of you for participating and helping out. We really appreciate it. And it really makes a difference. The more times you urge someone to get out to the polls, the more likely they are to do it. And to be reminded of who the labor endorsed candidates are is really important too. So thank you to all of our texters. We appreciate it.
Okay, we have another trivia question coming up. Go ahead, throw your answers in the chat. Ready, set, go. Which one of these does not qualify someone to vote by mail or absentee voting in Texas? Ooh, might have trumped them. This is a hard question, to be fair. Anybody know the answer? Oh, Kathy says pregnancy. Lori?
It costs nothing to guess, so you know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
come on.
Guessing doesn't hurt. There are gift cards available here.
Yeah. It's not the pregnancy. You can absentee vote if you're within 3 weeks, your due date's within like 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, of the election. There's in jail makes sense.
Okay, what's the correct answer, Lori?
No one? Okay, it's a trick question because all of those are reasons that you can qualify.
Wow, see, she tried to trick everybody.
See, you know what? I thought the teacher group would like see right through my plan. That was cruel. I was a teacher, people. I'm going to make you work for it. Yeah, if you're in jail and you're confined and you're not finally convicted, you can vote by mail. If you're pregnant, you can vote by mail if your due date was within a certain time frame of elections. So you can do all of that.
Okay.
Not a lot of
Thank you.
excuses.
All right, next slide. So I'm sorry to horrify everyone that this election cycle is not over today, because it's not, because we have another 11, 12 weeks of this. We will be doing runoffs in the state of Texas. If you are running for an office and you do not reach that 50% threshold, and you only gain a plurality and not a majority of the voters who actually vote in that election, you have to go to a runoff. So the top 2 people will go to a runoff May 28th. There will be another early voting period. There will be another voter registration period. So if you have friends, family, colleagues that aren't registered to vote yet, maybe they just moved to Texas or they just turned 18, you can register them and they can vote in the May 28th runoffs. And there will be many runoffs around the state in primaries for folks to get involved in. So it's our second shot. It's our next round of this. So those are the important dates. Note them down. We'll be sending out lots of text and emails in the meantime, but yeah, this is not over yet. It's only the first round today. So next slide. And then I also want to make sure to give a shout out to all of our COPE donors, because we have many PAC donors. Our political action committee is what allows us to do our work, because we can't use union dues for political purposes. We can only use political action committee dollars, which are given by members voluntarily out of their paychecks, and we appreciate it. People donate $1 at a time. They donate $2 at a time. Some do $5 or more, and we really appreciate it. But one really easy way to fund our fight is to go to our store and buy a t-shirt or buy a yard sign or buy a button or any number of different things to fund the work of our political action committee. So we urge you to go to store.texasaft.org, check it out. We really appreciate your support and to all of our political action committee members and donors that participate. So thank you all for doing that, and definitely check out the store. Buy something. If you don't want to buy something for yourself, buy it as a gift for a friend or a family member. Even if you have any people that are fervent Trump voters, just buy the yard sign and just go put it in their yard, right next to the Trump sign, and make sure that they at least vote for one right candidate in an election cycle. So next slide. Thank you, Claudia, for placing your order. We really appreciate it. I want to make sure we'll open it up for questions in a moment because we're almost done, but I want to make sure to point to our upcoming sessions. Our next session in 2 weeks is going to be focused on local organizing fights, local elections, local bond issues, local tax rate elections in districts all across the state. So we're going to focus on that on March 19th. April 2nd and the 16th, we're doing something very special where we're bringing in some of our national trainers to talk about civics education. On April 30th, we're going to talk about PAC dollars and all that money flowing in from out of state to influence the elections here in Texas. I was asked earlier today how much I thought the pro school voucher side spent in this election, and I think they spent $13 million or so. Versus the very small amount that all the organizations against them spent. So we were vastly outspent this election by millionaires and billionaires, and we're going to talk more deeply about that on April 30th. On the 14th, we're going to talk about retirement and what the next steps are there for future COLAs and future fights. And then we're going to talk about how we think change is possible and how we can actually have a thriving, strong democracy and public education system in Texas on May 28th, which is, again, the date of the runoff. So we'll probably talk about some of these issues as well in regards to watching election results. So I'm going to open it up for questions right now. If folks have a question about watching election results, parsing election results, what to watch for tonight, feel free to drop it in the chat. In a second, we'll do our last trivia question as well, but I want to make sure to open it up for questions. If you can come off mute or you can drop your question in the chat and we'll try to answer it. And we appreciate all of you being here. What is your question? Okay, no questions. I taught you all everything. I've taught you every piece of important information tonight, so I'm proud of myself. That's okay. Next slide for the last trivia question.
Okay, last trivia question. Ready? Go. The largest donation in Texas history was given to Governor Abbott in the form of how much money from a Pennsylvania pro voucher billionaire? Let's see your answers in the chat.
Oh, we have Pam Andrews with D, 6 million, and that is correct.
Pam, good job, Pam.
Woo woo.
Good job, Pam. Yes, that's a $6 million donation from Jeff Yass, who is a pro school voucher and pro quote unquote education reform billionaire from Pennsylvania, who hasn't only spent that 6 million here in Texas. Nationwide in this election cycle, he spent $40 million in elections across the country to influence politicians and get his pet project of school vouchers passed. It's not a grassroots movement. So a lot of people are going to say that to you, that it is a grassroots movement of parents who are just fighting to get their kids out of quote unquote failing schools. And that is an absolute lie. And anyone who says it is a liar, because all of these groups are funded by millionaires and billionaires who generally support other far-right causes, and they spend their money in elections to push a policy agenda, and it's built around what they regard as education reform. Betsy DeVos is definitely one of them. Richard Weekly is another one. We have all of these dossiers and we actually put them together and printed them on our website. If you go to texasaft.org, Tim Dunn is another one. These are billionaires, these are millionaires, these are people from the energy sector, from oil and gas. These are people from the kind of software, high tech Silicon Valley world that are wanting to influence elections because they approach public education in many of the same ways that they approach their businesses. They look at students as commodities, as schools, as essentially stores that are quote unquote selling education. And if you don't like the store you're in, you should just go to a different store. And that's the way that they look at education. And that's unfortunate. So there's a question in the chat from Jeremy. Can you say more about the plan to create a democracy in public education that you mentioned? It's not necessarily a plan to create a democracy. It's more along the lines of supporting the democracy that we have and building it up to be a stronger, more thriving, more effective democracy versus the gerrymandered, bought by billionaires democracy that we're currently exist in. This doesn't work for a lot of folks, and so we want to urge people to be more engaged in the civic process and vote, attend your local school board meetings, attend the state legislature in 2025. We're going to need all the people that are on this call to show up physically face to face in the next legislative session and argue for a strong public education system. So is that the last slide, Jamie?
It is.
Okay, cool.
we
Well, I want
just-
to thank you all for participating tonight. And did anybody get a bingo? Was
yeah,
anybody
check
paying
your
attention?
bingo cards. Let us know.
If you weren't, you can watch your coverage tonight on CNN or MSNBC or Fox, or your local affiliate TV stations who often do election coverage too, and you can play bingo with them too and listen for those keywords and buzzwords. Meantime, thank you all for participating. We appreciate everyone being with us tonight. And polls are about to close in our time zone in 10 minutes or so. So we urge folks to watch the results tonight and make sure to tweet about it. Make sure to share the links you've seen tonight. Please copy these links, share them on social media, share them with your friends, family, and coworkers. And again, thank you all for being with us tonight.